Hey everyone, how are you? In this video, we are going to solve the lead code problem of the day, and the problem is longest unequal adjacent groups sequence part 2. Now we have already solved the part 1 of this problem yesterday and it was of easy level, but today the problem is of part 2 and it is of medium level. In this particular problem, the given input is an array of string, let us call it as words, and another array of numbers, let us call it as groups. Now the length of both of these arrays are same, and I will tell you how this is important. For now, let us understand what is the output we need to give. The output we need to give is a string array which is of maximum length. So we need to create a string array of maximum length possible, such that we need to follow few rules. So such that the strings are from the words array. So you basically need to create a string array out of this words array, and the strings which you are choosing should be of equal length. So you need to choose equal length strings from this words array in sequence. Okay, so you will have to follow the sequence, whatever sequence of words are given in the array, and then for every adjacent strings in your output, their corresponding groups should be different. Now I will tell you how we can find out what is the group of a particular string in your array. For now, you need to know that whatever output string array you are creating, for every adjacent strings, their corresponding groups should be different. And also there is one more point, that whatever string array you are forming as an output, for every string, they should differ by exactly one character. All the strings in your array should differ by exactly one character at the same index. Now what does this at the same index means? Let me tell you. For example, if there is a string DCA and another string DCB, now you need to compare the characters at the same indexes. So D is equal to D, which is fine. C is equal to C, which is fine, and A is not equal to B. So you have one different character, right, in these particular strings. So you can say that these two strings are valid because they are different by just one character. Now let us say you have another strings DCA and CDB. Now here you can see that the strings actually differ by just one character. The first string has a D, C and A. The other string also has a D, C and B. But you need to compare at the same index. So D is not equal to C, there is one difference. C is not equal to D, two difference. And A is not equal to B, three difference. So all the three characters are different, and we only allow those strings which differ by exactly one character. So DCA and CDB cannot be in your output array because they differ by three characters. Alright, let us try to understand it with few examples. So in example number 1, the given words array is BAB, DAB and CAB, and the given groups array is 1, 2, 2. Now first of all, you need to understand what is the group of a particular string or a particular word. So basically it is this particular rule, that the group of any word at index I is equal to groups of I. So you are given two input, right, a words array and a groups array. From this words array you can find out what are the strings, and from this groups array you can find out what are the group number of a particular string. So coming back to this rule again, that group of a particular word which is at index number I is equal to the groups of I. So this is your groups array and this is your words array. So if you want to find out what is the group of this word, then you will have to find out its index. The index is 1, right? So you need to find out what is the group of words at index 1. So this will be equal to groups of 1, right? Whatever value is there in the groups array at index 1. So it is 2, right? So the group number or group of DAB is 2. For BAB it will be 1. For CAB it will be 2, right? So this is very simple to understand that what is the group of a particular word. Now, how can you find out what is the output in this case? You need to follow these rules, right? The first one is the strings which you are forming in your string array, which you need to give as an output, should be from the words array, and it should be in sequence as well. So you need to see the strings in your words array in sequence, and then you need to find out what are the possible words you can put in the output. So you can put BAB, you can put CAB, you cannot put DAB, and we will see how. The second rule is strings should be of equal length. So you can see that the strings are of length 3, 3 and 3. Now according to these two rules, all these three strings can be the part of your output. Now you will have to understand why this is not the part of your output. Because the next rule is for every adjacent strings, their corresponding groups should be different. Now this is the point where DAB is eliminated and it will not be the part of your answer. If you will notice here, you will see that BAB and DAB, if you put them together in your answer, then they are adjacent, right? They are one after each other. Now if you put BAB and DAB together, right, if you put this as an answer as well, then what are the groups of these two? It is 1 and 2, right? 1 and 2, which is fine, they can be here. Now if you put CAB as well, then the group of CAB is 2, and now these two adjacent strings DAB and CAB are together, are adjacent, and their groups are same. But the point is, for every adjacent strings, their corresponding groups should be different. So you cannot put DAB and CAB both in your answer, right? Because their groups are same. Now they are adjacent, and that is why you need to check for their group. If they were not adjacent, you could have put it in the answer. If let us say this is 2, this is 1 and this is 2, then in this case BAB, DAB and CAB, this will be your answer, because you need to find out the maximum string length, and you can choose these strings in your output because their groups are different, right? It is 2, then 1, then 2. Now you might say that, hey, the group is 2 and 2 which is together, but no, they are not together. We only need to check for the groups of those strings which are adjacent. So in this case, again, let us try to understand it. BAB and DAB can be the answer. So instead of this, you can say DAB, and this is valid because they both are from the strings array. They both have the same length, 3 and 3. They are adjacent, but their groups are different. And there is another point which we will come on, but for now let us understand that either this can be the answer or BAB and CAB can be the answer. All the strings in your array should only differ by one character. So you can see that these two strings only differ by one character. It is B and B same, A and A same, then you have B and C which is different. Only one difference is there, right? Only one character difference is there. So you can say BAB and CAB can be the part of your answer. Now let us understand it using one more example. The example is the given words are A, B, C and D, and the given groups are 1, 2, 3 and 4. The group of A is 1, B is 2, C is 3 and D is 4. Now let us try to find out what is the answer for this. Well, answer is written over here, but let us try to create it. The first point is the strings should be from the words array in sequence. Okay, so we will go in the words array in sequence: A, then B, then C, then D. Now the next point is strings should be of equal length. So yes, A, B, C, D all are of equal length 1, right? Now at this point of time we can say that this is our answer, but we need to check for other points as well. For every adjacent strings, their corresponding groups should be different. Now the thing is A, B, C, D. So what are the adjacent strings? AB, BC, CD. For AB it is 1 and 2, different, right? So it is valid. For BC it is 2 and 3, different, so it is valid. And for CD it is 3 and 4, which is different, so it is valid. Now coming back to the last point, which is all the strings in your output should differ by exactly one character. So let us see that. A and B differ by exactly one character, right? A and C differ by exactly one character. A and D differ by exactly one character. B and C differ by one character. C and D differ by one character, and B and D differ by one character. So you can check for all the strings, they differ by just one character, right? So that is why we can say that all the strings can be the part of your answer. And since we need to find out the maximum length string, we need to select all those strings which are possible, right? So this is the output in this case. Now the thing is, guys, these two inputs, these two examples are given in the problem, but let me actually show you an example which is really good, which will make you understand all the things. Let us say the words array is DCA, DC, BC, CCD, DD, DA, CAD, and the groups array is 4, 5, 1, 4, 6, 7, 3. So you have total 7 strings or 7 group numbers. For DCA it is 4, for DC it is 5, for BC it is 1, for CCD it is 4, for DD it is 6, for DA it is 7, for CAD it is 3. Now in this case the output is DC, DD and DA. Now let us try to make the output first. We will come to the solution approach, but let us first understand how can we get the output. The thing is, let us say this is the part of your answer. Now if DCA is the part of your answer, you cannot choose DC. Why? Because they both are of different length. And now coming back to the points again, that the strings which you are choosing should be from the words array and should be of equal length, and we need to choose them in sequence. So that is what we are doing. We choose DCA as the output. Then we say that DC, can this be the output as well? No, because the length is different. It is of length 3, it is of length 2. BC we cannot choose because the length is 2. CCD, yes, fine, the length is same, so we can choose it. But the problem is the next point. For every adjacent strings, their corresponding groups should be different. Now if you say that DCA, the first string, is the part of my answer, then CCD cannot be here because their groups are same. It is 4 and this is also 4. So if you put CCD here, they are adjacent and their groups are same, right? So DCA can be the part of the answer, but not along with CCD, right? So this is not the part of the answer, this is not, and this is also not the part of the answer. This cannot be the part of the answer as well because the length is 2. This cannot be because the length is 2 and the length of DCA is 3. CAD, can this be the part of the answer? Well, if you see, the groups are also different, right? So it is DCA, then CAD. So we satisfy 3 points here. We satisfy the points that the strings are from the words array in sequence, the strings are of equal length, and the adjacent strings are having different group. But what about the last point, which is they should differ by exactly one character? So if you will say that DCA, the first string, is the part of my answer and CAD is also the part of the answer, then it is invalid because they differ by more than one characters. It is D and C different, C and A is different, and A and D is different. They differ by 3 characters. So if you are forming a string or forming an output which is having DCA, then this will alone be the part of your answer. So the output will be DCA, a string array with just one string, which is fine. But the thing is, you need to find out the output with maximum length, and we can create a better length or more number of words array. Let us see how. If you will say that DC is the first answer I have, okay, let us form an array DC. Okay, first is DC. DC is not possible, let us say, and DC is the part of your answer. Okay, fine. So DC is the first element. What about BC? Can this be the part of your answer? Yes, for now, yes, it can be. Why? Because they both differ by exactly one character. D and B is different, one character is different, and then C and C is same. So in this case, it is also valid. Their groups are also different. But the thing is, if you will select this DC with BC, then DC comma BC will be your answer. You will not be able to choose DD and DA, right? Because if you will see BC and DD, they both differ by two characters, right? So in this case, the output which you will form is DC comma BC, which is of length 2. And again, we can form another array which is of length 3. So that is why this is the output. And let us see how we can form this DC, right? And then you don't select this. You don't select this because the length is different. The length is 3. You select DD. The length is same. They are in sequence. They differ by exactly one character because D and D is same. C and D is different, right? So they differ by exactly one character. Their groups are also different. So DD can be the part of your answer and they are adjacent, but their groups are different. And DA can be the part of your answer as well because this is DA. The adjacent one is DD. The groups are 6 and 7, which is different. Their lengths are same and they differ by exactly one character. DD is same and DA is different. So one character difference is there. So we can say that DC, DD and DA, this is our final output. That's the string array we can create with maximum length. Now what can be the solution approach? Yesterday we solved the part 1 of this problem and we solved it using greedy approach. But greedy is not going to work and I will tell you why. Let us see the example. See, the thing is, when we selected DC with BC, this is called greedy approach where we select the answer the moment we get it. So DC and BC is valid. Now if you select the greedy approach, you are going to form an array which is of length 2, right? But we need to form an array of length 3 because that's the maximum possible for this input. So we are going to follow the dynamic programming approach and let us see how. See, the thing is, in dynamic programming approach, what we will do is, we will say initially we will create an array DP and assign all the values as 1. Now the length of this DP is going to be the length of your words array. So the length is 7 here. Now this 1 is telling me that if you end your output string array at DCA, then the length will be 1. Or you can say that this one is at index number 3, which is for CCD. So it is telling me that if you form an output which is ending at CCD, then the maximum length for now is 1, right? So initially we are forming a DP array with all the values as 1. This 1 is telling me that if you form a string array as an output with this particular words ending at these particular words like DCA or DC or BC, if you are ending with this particular word, then the length is going to be 1. And the parent of all of them are -1 as of now. -1 means they don't have any parent, and I will show you how this is useful for us. Now you need to create a function which will check for one very important thing. If you are given two words, then this function will return true if words are of equal length and the words differ by just one character at the same index. Now these are the two checks which we need to do, right? So we will check it that the words are of equal length with difference of just one character at the same index. Now the next thing is, this is your input. What we are going to do is, we are going to say, if we are creating an output which ends at DCA, then what is the maximum length we can form? What is the maximum output length we can form? So if you are ending at DCA and we know that we need to select the strings in sequence, this is your first string, right? And if you consider this as your last string DCA, then this is the maximum you can create, right? So the value will be 1. The DP array for DCA index will be 1 and it will not have any parent. Now I know that this might sound a bit confusing, but when we'll see for each of these words, everything will be clear. Now let us say you try to create a string array, an output which is ending at DC. Now at this point of time, you have one option that you can select this particular word as your answer as well. But now you will check that is this valid? Can you select this word? So what are the different checks you need to do? You need to make sure that their lengths are same and they differ by exactly one character and their groups are different. Well, their groups are different, but if you will pass these two words in this function, it will return false because their lengths are different. So at this point of time, you will say that, okay, if I am forming a string array ending at DC, I cannot select DCA as the answer. So the maximum length I can create is 1. So again, this will be 1 without any parent. But what about BC? If you form a string array, which is your output ending at BC, you can select DCA or DC or both, right? You cannot select DCA because the words are of different length, but you can select DC. Why? Because they are of same length, they are of different groups and they differ by exactly one character. So this function is going to return true if you pass DC comma BC to it, right? If you pass these two words, this function will return true. So you can say that if I am forming an array ending at BC, then I can also include DC in my answer. So the length of this is 2. So now I can say that if I am forming a string array ending at BC, the length will be 2. This is the maximum length array I can create. So now this time the DP value at index number 2 for BC is 2. Also, now we will have a parent and we will see what is the use of the parent, this particular array. The parent for this BC is going to be DC, which is at index number 1. Parent means what is the element just before me. So if you are forming an array which is ending at BC and before it is DC, so DC is at index number 1 and that is what we are storing here. This will be useful later on. I will show you how. If you will check for CCD, that is if you try to create an array which is ending at CCD, you will not be able to add any element in your array because before CCD it is DCA, DC, BC. These both are of different length, and for this the groups are same. So you will not be able to add any element. So there is no change in the values. It will be 1 and -1. Now for DD, you will notice that if you are forming an array which is ending at DD, then before DD you cannot include DCA, but you can include DC. You cannot include BC. Why? Because they differ by 2 characters, and you cannot include this because DD and CCD are of different length. So now if you are creating an array which is ending at DD, so you can include DC as well, right? So at this point of time, you will say that in case of DD, which is at index number 4, the value is going to be 2, which is representing what is the maximum length array you can create. Again, the parent of this is going to be 1 because before DD, we are storing DC, right? So DC is at index number 1, so the parent is 1. What about DA? Now, if you will notice here, DA is at index number 5, right? And the value is 3 right now because if you are creating an array which is ending at DA, then before DA, you can say that, okay, before DA, I can have DC and I can include DD as well. These values are not valid because they are of different length, and for this one, we have more than one different character at the same index. But we can say that if we are creating an array ending at DA, we can include DC and we can include DD as well because they all are different by exactly one character. Their groups are different when you check adjacent elements 5, 6 and 6, 7. So you form an array ending at DA, and before that you have DD and you have DC. So at this point of time, you will say that in case of DA, the value is going to be 3 and the parent of 3 is going to be 4. Why 4? Because before DA, we have DD, which is at index number 4. Now for CAD, you will also not find any element which you can add. So it will be 1 and -1. Now the next thing is, this array will tell you that what is the maximum length string array you can create. And the maximum value is 3, right? Okay, if it is 3, but in return, you will have to actually give the array which you can form. And that's why we are having this parent array. We can call this array as parent. We can call this array as a DP. So now the maximum value is 3. You will say, what is the index of this 3? It is 5. It is at index number 5. And what is the parent of this? The parent is 4. So you will first select the element at index number 5, which is DA, then go to the parent, which is at index number 4, which is DD, and at index number 4, the parent is 1. So at index number 1, you have DC, right? So you are able to fetch all the 3 elements, which is DA, DD, and DC. And since we are doing it from the reverse, we actually need to return DC, DD, DA, right? So you will find DA, then DD, then DC, and you are going to return it in reverse. So that's the complete explanation of this particular problem. Now let me take you back to the code editor and let me show you how can you solve this using Python. This is the complete code for this particular problem. First of all, let me show you about the function which we have created to check for the validity of 2 words. So we have created a function having valid. We have 2 inputs, word 1 and word 2. Now if their lengths are different, we will directly return false. Now if their lengths are same, we create a variable diff which will check how many characters they are different with, and we just go character by character in both the words. Now whenever we find out if the characters are different, then we will say diff plus equal to 1. We will add the number of different characters and we will return true if the difference is 1. So we can directly say return diff equal to 1. So if the difference is 1, it will be true, otherwise it will be false. Now let us create a variable n, which is the length of your words, and now create the 2 tables or 2 arrays, which is the DP array, which is 1 for now, and parent array, which is -1 for now for each of the values. We are creating an array of length n, right? Now we run a loop from the first index up to index number n, and another loop inside this which will run before our current element. Okay, so before our current element, for example, if we are at index number 3, we will check for all the elements at index number 0, 1, then 2. So that is why this loop is running up to I. Now the next thing is check for all the conditions, that if having valid the function, you pass both the words, your current word which is at index number 3 or index number I, and then each of the word in the index number j. You check that are they valid, and if they are, then you check for another condition. Now the next condition is this one, which I will come on. First of all, let us see this condition, that the groups of I and groups of j should be different. This is the other condition which we need to see, right? Because the adjacent elements should be of different group. Now there is another condition, dp of j plus 1 should be more than dp of I. This is because inside the if condition, we are setting the dp of I, that is the length of that string array which will end at this particular word which is at index number I, is equal to dp of j, the word which we have just found out, which we can include in our string array, plus 1. Now if this value is not more than this particular value, it means that although I can include this word in my answer, I already have got a better answer, a string array which is of better length, right? So if this is not true, I don't need to do this. If it is true, then I will say dp of I is equal to dp of j plus 1. Why plus 1? Because we got another word in our dp of j. And then we set the parent of our current word I equal to j. And this is all we need to do to create our dp and parent table. Then we find out what is the index at which my maximum dp element is at. So we first find out what is the max of dp, and then we check for the index, what index it is at. Then we create a result variable which is an empty array of now, and we run a loop until my current idx is not equal to -1. Now we will reach to -1 how? We will append the current word at index idx in the result array, and then idx is going to be the equal to parent of idx. We will just keep going to the parents, and the moment we find out that a particular element is having a parent as -1, it means there are no more elements to add in our result array. And finally we can reverse our result array and return it. And this is a pretty efficient solution for this particular problem. You can just submit this and you will see that it is really efficient solution for this particular problem. So yes, we have solved this particular problem, and I know the solution approach and everything was a bit complex, but yes, once you know about the dynamic programming concepts, this is going to be really easy to understand. So that's it for this video, guys. If you found this video helpful, if this video helps you to understand the problem and the solution approach as well, then make sure that you hit that like button. And if you have not subscribed to my channel as of now, then make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching this video, guys.